Hi, I'm Dr. Adam Miller, DDSMD, board-certified oral and maxillofacial surgeon and board-certified anti-aging medicine specialist, here to talk to you today about midlife rules. These are rules for handling the midlife transition, and today we're going to focus on rules for ladies. I want to talk to you about moving from mom to matriarch, the mom reboot. I want to talk about think space, which is something women don't get a lot of when they're mothering. And I want to talk about ladies first when it comes to the midlife transition. It's not quite the same, as teaching your kids about the birds and the bees, but stepping into this midlife discussion has a similar awkwardness for a doctor. Like the timid parent, I'm unsure if my patients need to know all the graphic details. There will be a few, really big-eyed moments, and of course, we have to talk about sex. But if I don't go there, the kids are going to hear versions of this stuff on the bus, as the saying goes. The bus in this context being the local coffee shop or wine club or yoga studio, or worse yet, social media. So who is out there delivering real navigation for the midlife transition? Recently, it's been me. Let me first say congratulations. You've made it. We've made it. You and I both know classmates from high school who didn't even make it to life's halftime. So let's be grateful, even if it takes all our might. The midlife discussion matters to me personally and professionally. I've studied our tribe as a cosmetic surgeon and as an age management specialist, and I've studied us through the eyes of a single 45 years young bachelor who's still looking for Mrs. Miller. So I'm motivated. And many would say that my not being a parent disqualifies me as a real expert in the midlife discussion, but I disagree. You married people, especially those of you with kids, have done something I've always dreamed of doing. I marvel at the journey you've been on. I'm inspired, and inspiration begets study. I've studied your tribe well, and I believe I can help. As your doctor and fan, I've assisted the midlifer with dental, skin, hair, weight, sleep, hormone, sex, and other issues. Since 2014, however, I've been formally treating the mind of aging patients also. My first step in therapy is usually to undo some bogus conditioning. The midlife crisis is an American construct that does a serious disservice to anyone who falls into its trap. I believe it is better thought of as an appropriate reevaluation of who you are, what you really want, and where you're trying to go. After 2 decades of school, learning how to manage money, and successes and failures in both the workplace and in relationships, it would be crazy, or at least very un-American, not to contemplate a more fulfilling path. To think that the transition from the first to the second half of life is nothing more than a wild streak where one jumps off of her standard path, goes a little rogue for a few months, then jumps right back on the same track is, to me, illogical. The midlife transition is a legitimate thing. It's a multidimensional mind, body, spirit, metabolic phenomenon that reaches unexpectedly into your past and forces you to choose a better vision for your future. It's a process with a front windshield and a rearview mirror, and you'll find yourself switching from one perspective to the other very often during this season. Despite the lack of safe spaces out there to dialogue about this, I promise you that if you are between the ages of 40 and 55, you are not alone. And after 15 years of doing cosmetic surgery and 5 years of doing anti-aging medicine consults, I can tell you that women go first. It's like a second puberty. Guys are destined to go through it, but it may take 6 to 18 months for them to catch up. Ladies, don't allow that to frustrate you. The midlife contemplations start for a woman in her late 30s and early 40s. A niece or a nephew or a grandparent comments about her gray hair or wrinkles. Or she may simply take note of her aging face in the mirror one wearisome morning after the kids have left for school. The midlife warning flares start while the kids are still around. However, for most of the women in my practice, the real emotional labor involved with the midlife or pre-menopausal period doesn't begin in earnest until the kids have moved out of the house. It's in the empty nest that the first phase of the process, which I will refer to as the mom reboot, unfolds. I call phase 1 think space. After decades of being in 3 places at once and putting everyone before herself, mom has a chance to sit at a coffee shop with a book, a journal, or a friend and think. For years, she's dreamed of having this time to herself. Once think space finally arrives, however, it can be overwhelming. Think space is a place of reconciliation. Women look in the mirror and weigh out self-sacrifice versus rewards gained. Think space is fraught with unexpected emotions like guilt, shame, regret, embarrassment, and fear. It only takes a few visits to think space, in contrast to men, before a woman goes looking for guidance. I'm grateful when they choose me, and in my consult room, this is what I hear. I feel bad for even talking about this, doctor. I'm grateful for my husband, my kids, and my home, and I'm grateful for my health. I'm really very lucky, but I'm glad when my kids are away. I like having my house back. Is that terrible? I know I should work out or at least go meet some people, but I just don't have the energy. I feel like I've given up on life. And that goes for sex too. He'd love more, but between getting UTIs after intercourse and a terrible body image, I'm just in no mood. I wouldn't blame him for having an affair. My husband has this master plan for us that I've gone along with for years. To be honest, I'm kind of done with it now. I feel like he doesn't care about my desires. I know that sounds bad. And I've been thinking a lot about my mom and dad and how they were as parents. My mom still drives me crazy. She's always found something to criticize me for. I know I wasn't the best parent, but compared to my mom, I think I did really well. I'm not sure why I'm dwelling on my parents now, though. I'm having all these juvenile emotions. For God's sake, I'm a grown woman. Ladies, you need a place where you can should all over yourself during the early part of this mom reboot. Think space is that messy should sandbox. Let all the shoulds flow into your journal. Let them flow with a counselor. Let them flow with me. Just get them out so you can move forward. Moms sacrifice beauty, energy, libido, brain power, creativity, and careers to successfully raise their family. Sadly, too many chalk up the post-mom fatigue to, you should feel burnt out, honey. You're a 48-year-old mom. There is a better path. You have the reboot option. And I'm here to help women have a better response to the maelstrom of emotions and physical changes that roll in during the perimenopausal, post-parenting phase of life. I'm here to say that midlife discontent is far richer and more important than a transient crisis. It is normal, common, and logical to put the whole of your life under evaluation before making the turn for the back nine. Do yourself a favor and accept this process, please. Don't fight it and don't minimize it. Your life depends on you owning it with faith and with hope. Now, if this is speaking to you, pause and say the following, please. I accept the process that is unfolding. I accept that my midlife reboot may take 12 months until I feel like my new normal has been established. And I choose to enter into the rest of my life believing that the second half can be my best half. Good. It's good to hear yourself say that. Moms, for the past 15 years or more, you have been needed in 3 places by 3 different people every minute of every day. You've continually found a way despite a time and energy escrow account that doesn't add up. You've been pooped down in the middle of the night by a screaming child. And despite that heroism, you've had people close to you criticize your parenting style or challenge you for not being more socially connected. And yet, most of the time, you still muster an on-demand smile with family, friends, and colleagues when it matters most. Moms, most of you are, as I see it, magicians. I have total confidence that you can successfully handle the mom reboot process, but pitfalls do abound. The mom reboot is going to include some surprising emotions, and I want to preemptively bolster you as best I can. So grab a pen and let's jam. First, ladies, don't expect your husband to be hand in hand with you down the reboot path. As the think space, that is your think space, becomes filled with new you energy, you'll wonder why your partner isn't enriching his life with the same process. But remember, it's like a second puberty. He'll get there in his time. But for now, own the emotional labor that's calling your name and leave the rest to God. Many of you ladies have conditioned your man to think the way he thinks. He will need some reconditioning before he embraces his own transition. I'll coach you later on how to deal with your hubby. Resist the temptation, ladies, to write this season off as a little phase I'm going through. The world will offer you the midlife crisis box as a convenient receptacle to dump all your emotions, reflections, and questions into. It is the easier route, and it makes sense to more people. But you and I both know this is more than a midlife crisis. This is the beginning of the second half of your life. Let's treat it with that respect. Don't feel bad about getting your home back either. Enjoy it. Do some redecorating if you want. Create your safe haven again. But don't feel guilty because you're happy that your kids have moved on. Even the Bible states that it's good for parents and kids to cleave. Also, don't feel bad about the resurfacing of some old resentments that are linked to your parents, friends, or employers. A lot of stuff gets churned up in this think space. You will realize that a lot of junk you thought you'd grown out of actually just got buried. Get the counseling you need and stay in the process. Many are going through this same thing. Just ask. The following 4 questions from Marcia Reynolds, who's got a doctorate in psychology and is the author of Wonder Woman, How High-Achieving Women Find Contentment and Direction, can aid you in talking with others and processing the midlife in your think space. Question number 1, what do I feel I should have done by this time in my life? Number 2, is there something more important and fulfilling that I can focus on now? Number 3, what do I want more of in my life? What have I imprisoned that is crying to be set free? And number 4, how can I ensure my commitment to living a significant life now? Okay, it's good to flirt with external changes, but don't kid yourself, please. The midlife transition is primarily an inside job. Take a wild trip. Buy a motorcycle if you want. Change up your wardrobe or hairstyle. Trade in the minivan for a Mini Cooper. And for the love of this cosmetic surgeon, get some skin rejuvenation going already. By the way, our email is info@arisemd.com if you want world-class skin rejuvenation. But ladies, remember I said this. Failure to own your emotional labor during the empty nest perimenopausal period will come out in unproductive ways later. You'll suddenly start poking holes in everything your husband says or does. Relatives and friends may fall victim to your discontented nature. And you could end up in a self-loathing state at one afternoon wine social after another. Most women really aren't prepared for the rush of introspection and emotions that come in the early stages of the mom reboot. If you are in your 30s, I hope this article will save you from flying ahead blindly. You can accept the process with grace, knowing that it has a mental, physical, and metabolic component to it. If you are already in the post-mom transition, it's never too late to do the mom reboot properly, so lean in. Now that we've done a flyover of the complex nature of this empty nest pre-menopausal midlife season, I'm going to drop a simple tactic into your think space. In a future article, I will address the metabolic and physical changes that commonly trip up the midlife maiden. For now, I will stick with the mind domain and offer you a paradigm that has been helpful to many of my female patients. The first step in the mom reboot is acceptance. You have to accept that it's a real thing. Every woman goes through it, and to do it successfully, you need to follow a process. So after acceptance, you need to insert a new intention. That is a mental framework for the second half of your life. If you don't make this effort, the alternative in America is pretty ugly. You'll end up comparing yourself to your younger self and to media divas. The high road, I believe, is to consider the midlife season as a transition from mom to matriarch. Think elegant sexiness, less girl and more woman. Imagine less chasing and correcting and more stillness and listening. I see the successful second half woman as a lighthouse of elegance and strength. She is less reactive, and she offers more sensuality and less of that superficial sexual power struggle. The matriarch is royal. She humbly commands respect from women and men of all ages. The matriarch has a large reservoir of love, wisdom, and joy to serve those who are smart enough to approach her lighthouse. The matriarch paradigm was gifted to me during my 6 years in Asia. I saw the matriarch exemplified one day in the middle of running my cosmetic surgery center in Borneo. I had just finished my last case in the morning and was running behind. Typically, my nurses would be scurrying about, finding charts and interviewing the pre-op consult patients that are on my afternoon schedule. But on this memorable Tuesday, there wasn't a nurse to be found. After a mini meltdown, I peeked out to our plush waiting room and saw something unusual. There, in front of my first afternoon patient, stood, like soldiers before their commander, my 3 nurses. Except my patient wasn't acting like a drill sergeant. On the contrary, this late 50s Chinese woman was holding court. She was regal with a silk chom sum and 2-inch high heels. Her jet black hair was speckled with silver accents. This woman's posture was impeccable as she sat on the edge of our leather club chair, legs crossed, with her hands stacked on top of her knee. My nurses showed her the overwhelming respect and attention befitting a queen, and my patient received the attention with honor and ease as she gracefully queried each nurse about the day. This was not a politician or a celebrity, and this was not an old Chinese lady. This was a very attractive matriarch without an ounce of conflict about her station in life. This matriarch accepted and reveled in her position. She understood that she is still a leader, but she's graduated beyond mom to a higher, more powerful position. And, ladies, you can too. This matriarch, by the way, would later have a double eyelid surgery, as they called it in Asia, for what we surgeons call a blepharoplasty, to tighten up the sagging upper eyelid skin. The mom to matriarch paradigm will help many of you, even if it's just a borrowed vision, to frame your future self during think space moments. I pray that by this point you are already feeling a little strength, maybe some hope, and a little energy welling up inside. But before I let you get too far down the mom reboot path, I need you to understand the element that most often trips a woman up early in her process. Believe it or not, it is her husband. Ladies, many of you have conditioned your man to be a certain way during the mom phase of your life. He will need some retraining, but now is not the time to play life coach. The pupil, your husband, is not ready, and he never will be ready in the way you want him to be. His retraining will happen by watching your new self come to life. You will shut your man down if you try to teach or preach to him at this point. Your guy is not used to having me talk come from you because you are too busy leading and protecting the nest. So I beg you to resist the temptation to dwell in he should land. Like he should know me well enough. He should understand without me having to explain everything I'm going through. And the granddaddy of all the should sabotages, he should be doing the same self-discovery work. In fact, we should really be doing it together as a couple. No, you shouldn't. At least not yet. Should all over yourself in a safe space. Get it out. Dump it on me. Leave it in the office and then move on. Women, your precociousness does not stop in your teens. And I'll give you a sneak peek at future articles. Your new me work will scare the boy out of your man if you're not careful. So be committed to your process, but give him grace and give him reassurance, despite his juvenile reactions at times. Believe me, it will pay huge dividends later. You may be out of love with your guy. You may feel like he is holding you both back from your best life. But after treating hundreds of midlife husbands, I promise you that, with very few exceptions, husbands want to understand, help, and protect you. Men won't acknowledge it on the surface, but their inner man is banking on you doing the mom to matriarch transition to the best of your ability. Remember, you, ladies, are carving the path for both of you. Sigh if you must. I get it. What happens for your guy if you kind of half-ass this midlife transition? I'm glad you asked. Your husband has had a black and white view of a successful life. In his mind, it's clear how you fit into this view of a successful life. Furthermore, he's assumed that his plan will make you as happy as it makes him. So when you start pushing and pulling on his big life plan, he's going to resist. Partly because he's stubborn and plagued with a caveman-like myopia, but his reaction is largely due to the caveman's desire to protect you and the cave. Your husband's mission for 2 decades has been to lead, provide, and protect. At the midlife stage, he's probably starting to enjoy some of the finer things that he once only dreamed of, and he's doing it without guilt. If you ladies come along and start shaking up that paradigm with innuendos of discontent, it will feel like tectonic plate movement under him. He needs to be convinced that the midlife metabolic, physical, and psychological reboot really is a better path for both of you. If he sees you fighting with your process, frustrated, confused, overly emotional and distant, questioning everything from his love for you to why he never did this or that, all the while struggling with insomnia and emotional lability, he won't see a compelling trailhead to meet you at. In the male caveman mind, he will think, she is asking me to change my golden plan so that I can enter that misery? No thanks. Furthermore, he will actually feel the need to rescue you from the trail back to his golden path. Sometimes the husbands in my practice go as far as doing a Google search about menopause and personality changes. They will reach out to me, the doctor, and say, "We've got to do something. Is it her thyroid? Is it her hormones? Come on, doc." I say to them, it's all of the above, including the most important part, which is her mind. The first real midlife warning flare for men, though most of them fail to recognize it, comes when the kids start visiting colleges. That's right. Midlife angst for men often starts before the wife. Dads suddenly realize that the kids they helped raise have grown into little adults and soon will be out of touch. Mom, on the other hand, is counting the days until they're gone. But dad feels discontented, disconnected. It's like his hourglass is running out. And guys say things to me like, "I feel like my wife and the kids have their own little program. I'm not keeping up with their inside jokes, and I'm the last to find out about any significant events in my teenager's life. I kind of think we need some counseling." I'm going to expand upon the midlife male in a future article, but for now, ladies, be sensitive to the disconnect your husband may be feeling. You ladies tell me that he has this whole program and it's like, "Get on board or get out of my way," quote unquote. And I know that's an easy paradigm to react to. I will coach you on managing that more later. But for now, trust me when I say that including him in the inside jokes and the small events in your kid's life will pay big dividends later. That effort on your part frees him to be less preoccupied with that inner dwindling dad hourglass. In turn, he might just catch up to you through his own dad reboot more quickly. By this point, you may have found some resonance and perhaps even some hope with what I've been saying. In other words, you are compelled to explore a healthier midlife trailhead. That's awesome. Now, where do we go from here? Well, first, a disclaimer. I've leaned on 15 years of cosmetic surgery experience and 5 years of age management medicine experience in both the US and Asia to guide women through a mom reboot process. I've had many midlife couples in my practice that have helped me shape these recommendations, and I've had a 4-year relationship with a woman who went through much of this work from the age of 42 to 46 years. Beyond that, I've read books that have influenced me and attended lectures both at church and in the secular setting. Although I've used counselors and have had counselors as patients in my practice, I am not a licensed counselor. But I think you will find some useful navigation for the metabolic and physical aspects of the mom reboot in next month's article as we continue our series on healthy aging. So watch your email for that. Oh, and before I run off back to clinic, let me address one thing. Much, but not all, of the mom reboot discussion also applies to midlife women who are not moms. The vast majority of middle-aged women in my age management practice are moms, and therefore I write with that bias here. But as a single middle-aged man with middle-aged childless female friends, I'm compelled to write about the unique midlife reboot of the always been an empty nest tribe in future articles. Do you have thoughts, questions, or criticisms about what you've heard? Please email me at adam@arisemd.com with any feedback. That's adam at ARISE, M as in Mary, D as in Delaware.com with any thoughts, feedback, concerns, questions, criticisms. Let me have it. But like any good doctor, I have to send you out the door with something. So here's a little thought elixir. Drink it twice a day until we meet again. Point number 1, you are on the right path, and it's not a crisis path. This is a thing. Don't dance around it or blow it off. This is your thing. Don't expect your spouse or your mom or even your priest to understand it or do the emotional labor for you. Own it. This thing is a process with predictable phases, starting with think space, and give yourself about a year to really work through it. I know that you appreciate all that you have, and you should be grateful. And I know you feel guilty about focusing so much on yourself, but you are going to have to do it anyway. Like it or not, you will have to deal with some junk from your past. Lonely moments, they are your gift. Use them wisely. And get creative. Molt. Break through the mom carapace like a turtle escaping her shell. You'll feel naked. There will be major failures. Oh my God, I didn't realize there were women out there experimenting with drugs. Get out there anyway, please. You are the front runner in the family again. Take solace. Your husband will catch up. Your husband, despite his rebellion, needs you to be all in with your process because you are carving the new path for both of you, right? And ladies, the hardest part might be figuring out what really makes you happy and letting that shine as bright or brighter than the joy your husband has after a weekend of golf with the guys. Much love and respect, Dr. Adam C. Miller. Until next time.